Ready? Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the July 2nd, 2024 Public Services Committee meeting. Little housekeeping. If you have a cell phone, please put it on mute or turn it off. When you approach the podium to speak, please turn it on, the red light, and identify yourself. First item.
Number 10, ordinance third reading, amending the official zoning map of the city of Cheyenne, changing the zoning classification from MUB mixed use business to CB community business for land located northeast of the intersection of Cheyenne Street and Ridge Road.
Report.
Chair and members of the committee, Connor White, Planning and Development Department. Again, this is just the zone change from MUB to CB. It's to allow further development of the property, more auto-centric than what the MUB would allow, because it does allow, the CB would allow to push the building further back. This was approved on second reading. Staff still recommends approval. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from committee?
Chairman,
Mr. Seagrave.
I just want to make sure we've not had any more comments or changes or anything.
Chair, through you, nope, there has been no additional changes or anything like that. Still same proposal.
Okay. Any further comments or questions from committee? Hearing none, public comment. Public comment? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman. Move to approval of 35 motion. Second.
So a motion is second. Any comments or questions from committee? Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item.
Number 11, ordinance second reading, amending section 10.16.150 parking violation hearings and appeal procedures of the municipal code of the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, modifying the procedures governing the administrative review of parking citations, making conforming amendments, and repealing an obsolete provision.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. What you have before you is an amendment to the hearing
I'm
and
sorry,
appeals.
could you identify?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Captain David Jane, Cheyenne Police Department.
Thank
Sorry. What you have before you is a change to the hearing and appeals procedure. Now we're gonna call it the administrative review for parking tickets. It was really obsolete to try to say that to appeal a parking ticket, we had to hire a hearing officer and go through all the hearing process, everything as far as that goes. So what this does, this will basically set it up to where if someone disagrees with their parking ticket, they write into our parking manager, and really our parking manager takes care of almost all of those issues right there with him. But if they want a continued appeal to it or administrative review with this, we will be able to send that written appeal to the compliance division, so a different division within the city, where they will evaluate it along with the evidence that we have, being the pictures and the LPR data, and look at the ticket from there and handle it. So this gives some due process to citizens, but at the same time, not making it overly cumbersome or expensive for the city to handle.
Any questions from committee? Questions, committee? I have just one where it says by mail. Is email okay with that also, or?
Yeah, Ted will take those by email as well.
Okay. Okay. Any further comments or questions from committee? Councilman Laybourne.
Did we ever actually have to hire a hearing officer for a traffic ticket or a parking ticket?
Well, thankfully, Ted does a fantastic job working with these, because we have the concrete evidence there. And most time when someone comes in to complain, Ted shows them the pictures and they go, okay, so it's not that they're complaining that they were given a traffic ticket because they didn't violate parking ordinance. It's because they think they're exempt to a parking ordinance for some reason. And he's usually able to work with them and talk them into it. So we haven't had to do that for a parking ticket. We recently had to do it for an appeal on a scofflaw tow, which thankfully we now have an updated ordinance for towing review, but we had to go through the entire process for a scofflaw tow, which was found in the side of the city.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Okay, any public comment? Public comment. Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, move to approval on second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Laybourne.
I wonder what we might look forward to next in parking issues.
yeah, the very next item on here will be a interesting one to go through.
Any further comments or questions for committee? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Item number 12, ordinance second reading, creating section 10.60.015, paid on-street parking districts, establishment, administration of the municipal code of the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, establishing the paid on-street parking districts program and making conforming amendments as specified.
Captain James.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Captain James, Cheyenne Police Department. What you have before you here is the foundation of a paid on-street parking program. It starts with giving the council the authority to establish a paid on-street parking district. So what will happen with this new ordinance is the council can, by resolution, establish a paid on-street parking district. And then within that district, the administrator of the parking program, the parking manager, will evaluate how to set up the zones and the pricing based on several factors for that paid on-street parking. And so there's a lot of aspects to it, but the biggest thing is when establishing you set the district, you say, this is where we want paid on-street parking. The parking administrator will then look at that and say, okay, how do I want my zones? There's a lot of science behind the setting up the zones. Which is why I wanted it to be with the parking manager. So we want to look where parking is, looking at demand, looking at the types of commerce, things like that. Because then it also allows us to then study the parking as it goes. Who's buying the most tickets where? Because the goal is to take people where there's the highest demand of parking and either getting turnover really fast or getting them to move to where there's lower demand of parking. So within a district, there may be different zones that have cheaper pricing where there's lower demand, higher pricing where there's higher demand, so that we can increase that commerce in whatever district that is. I'm assuming that the council will look at the downtown area first. And so establishing that parking district, hopefully we can get people to move and even incentivize parking within the garage as we move forward. And so, yeah, it's a pretty in-depth ordinance, but that is basically the bones of it as we go. This really just establishes the foundation. There's still a lot of work to go. We will still have to do the resolution for the district. We'll then have to set up our zones and pricing, and we'll have to get the company Passport to set up the back-end software and send us the signage and all the other stuff we need to get started with it. But this is just the foundation.
Any questions from committee?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Seagrove.
through you. I like the concept of what you're doing. Our goal, especially for employees, would be to get them in the parking garage. Is that fair?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you, absolutely. We want people in the garage.
I'm just wondering if we should make the garage free as an incentive to get people in there and then charge them accordingly like you're laying out. I would like your group to think about that as you move forward. And if that's where we want them, let's make it easy.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you, that is absolutely what we're looking at. And that's why I like the zones and stuff, because we can study the revenue coming in. And if the revenue coming in can offset the costs, that's definitely something I believe the city should look at and say, is it worth making it free? And then we can get the bonds getting close to getting paid off, but there's still maintenance, there's still a lot of costs. And that is with paid on-street parking. If the legitimate revenue from people paying to park on the street can pay for those things, then we can definitely look at reducing the price in the garage or even making the garage free at that point. And so I think that's why it needs constant review, constant overlook, and constant studies of what's happening with parking downtown.
Okay, any further comment or questions from committee? Mr. Laybourne.
Captain James, I discussed with the city attorney, the idea that I could possibly have a conflict of interest due to my rental business at the apartment house downtown. And of course, I don't have a direct conflict, but I have a great interest. And that interest is shared by the Netford apartment building, which is one property over. And it is really critical for, as these zones are developed, that there's some understanding that not only those of us that have been there for a long, long time, but that the city have for a long, long time has also had a policy working to promote downtown living in upstairs buildings. I think we're gonna have some pretty large apartments here on the west side before too long, I hope. And so that, I'm not sure how other cities handle that. And certainly we've gone through a lot of different provisions, but basically we have open parking right there that doesn't really cover all the units, but it works. So I just wanted to mention that that definitely is something that I'm interested in, as well as other residential property owners.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I think that's really important. I think that's where public input's really important, and we've received some. But I also think that as the council's looking at establishing what the district is, if we all take in that stuff that input we're getting from the community, and we decide, okay, this block needs to be carved out of it, they can carve it out in that district, and that can be a different parking area. So that's where I like how this sets up. You set up the district, and then if you want it as part of that district, but pricing wants to be different, public opinion and input is something that is being highly valued as we go with this. And as we go forward, as this moves through the different readings, we're talking about what sort of releases we're gonna do at the police department as well, because when we start, it's gonna be a long process in establishing this. And so we want to make sure we're taking in all the input we can to hopefully best help everybody downtown. Or if there's other districts as well, but downtown's clearly the target area.
Thank you.
Dr. Rennie.
Mr. Chairman, it's Captain James on 10.60.010, which is the sign time limitation. I noticed we kept the reference to block faces in there for where there's a time indicated on posted signs, but then in the red, the sentence that we added at the end, does the block face limitation go away where we will have paid parking?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you, these two sections of ordinance, because there's two sign time limitations, we put it in there to hopefully clean it up and make it more understandable. It's really hard to articulate what is meant here. Fort Collins says 750 feet on their sign time limitation, which I think block face is a little better than that, but it's in there mainly for the very few areas that will remain that have sign time limitation. Hopefully because where there's paid on street parking, there won't be sign time limitation, which is why it says it won't apply. But we'll still have, I'm guessing, the area around the hospital, those areas that are sign time limitation. It's a really hard ordinance to understand and for people and that's a lot of times Ted will give a educational warning on those tickets because it is hard to understand the block face the first time.
Okay, well, I wanted to confirm that the way I read it is if you're paying at a meter, then you don't have to move around the corner or whatever. So that's the way I read it. I wanted to make sure I understood it correctly. And then the other thing kind of that maybe is related or follow up to my colleague from Ward 1's example is I wish there could be some consideration for those people that live in the downtown area, and I don't know if they can buy a permit or something for them, because obviously, I mean, there have been discussions over the years that to have a vital downtown, you have to have residents downtown, so, but then parking becomes an issue for them, so I don't know if that's been discussed, and so I just want to throw that in there. Thank you.
Councilman Laybourne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Captain Jane, so when we're talking about these spaces, are they going to be delineated? So that when a person is actually purchasing that time in that particular area, it's kind of hard to tell when we've got a big truck and a little car and it just really is, are we gonna have delineation?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you, I would love to see delineation. We have to work with other city departments for that. It doesn't really apply to this because they're set up by zones. So, you take a zone, you can look at the busiest street, 17th Street, and you can say, okay, we're gonna make that, 2-3 block area a zone. So no matter where you're parked in that zone, you're gonna be charged whatever the rate is, you know, if it's a half hour free and then $1 for the next hour, $2 for the one after that. So however it works, it doesn't matter what spot you're in that zone. Some places, which during the study I did recently, some places will even put sensors on each spot. Which I like that because that makes it really easy to study your traffic patterns. And it's fairly decent price. It's still a big expense, but it makes it easy to track where people are parked, how your commerce is moving. It can be used for a lot of different things when planning a downtown area. So yes, my personal opinion is I would like to see them marked because I think people then park more efficiently and they are city-owned spots. And now we're leasing them out. And I think as a city, we would like that to be the most efficient we can. And that's where that is an important thing to do. And it would be nice to see.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions from committee? Okay, any public comment? Public comment. Hearing none, may I have a Seth, did you want to say something?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Seth Lloyd. I live at 209 East Fifth Avenue, Cheyenne, Wyoming. In my day job, I work as a city planner with the city, but it's not in my capacity that I'm speaking. I highly encourage both the police department and this council to look into making the parking garage free and then the on-street parking paid. I think that's a better, will make the flow better. That's my opinion. I feel like that's has been done in other communities I've experienced. So that's just a recommendation that I would encourage. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Public comment. Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on second.
So I have a motion to second. Any comments or questions from committee? Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, being as there's no further business be in front of the Public Services Committee, we are adjourned.